Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and after a week off following the NFL draft and all our big news from that, we're finally back. We've got some interesting information on the schedule one day before the official release for the whole thing. And so the big topic I want to talk about is the back-to-back London games, some of the concerns by the fans about that, and why, personally, to me, I think the way this is set up is a massive advantage to the Jaguars. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So what we know so far about Jacksonville's schedule is that on the first day of October, they will be heading across the pond, probably a couple days before, to be fair, but they're going to be facing the Atlanta Falcons in what will be a home game for the Jaguars. And then the following week, they will be staying in England, and they will be facing the Buffalo Bills on October 8th. So they're going to have back-to-back games in London. So this was actually, back in 2020, something that the team had talked about doing. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for the team because of COVID. I say unfortunately more so for, what their plans were, obviously, and what they were wanting, because clearly that was their intention. And I don't personally recall, but I believe both of those games were going to be home games. I think that was more the concern because we're taking games away from Jacksonville. We're also still in the 16-game schedule, so you were getting 8 home games a year. There's no way you're getting 9 at that point. So, other than obviously the playoffs. So now, here's what's changed. Like I kind of mentioned when we talked about what the games were going to be, one of these is a home game and one of them is an away game. So before this, Jacksonville hosts 9 games in the season, goes on the road for 8 of them. Now, what effectively happens is that now there will be 8 games played in TIAA Bank Field, which will be renamed here sometime pretty soon. And that's something we already knew was going to happen. So, no change there. What has changed is the Bills game. And drastically, because let's compare the two scenarios we have here. So, first of all, Jacksonville's going to be over in London for over a week before they play the Bills. They're going to be acclimated. So, that's going to be one advantage. But compare these two scenarios. One is you're going up the East Coast all the way into Buffalo, in October, so it's not the worst weather, right? But it's still Buffalo. It's still going to be cold. You're going on the road in the Bills Mafia territory with all their fans there, right? I mean, they're going to jam-pack the stadium for that game. So that's one scenario, and that's the one road game that you have against a conference contender, really. Talk about division winners from last year. You host Kansas City, you host the Cincinnati Bengals. The one road game you had was against Buffalo. And so now, the other side of the scenario, and the one we got, is that you go across the pond, you play in London, you have an extra week out there against a team that's going to be struggling to acclimate like every other team in the NFL. You have a week advantage against them. You don't have to play in completely hostile territory. In fact, although the stadium's going to be decorated in Bills stuff and it's going to have, all their presentation in it, like it'll be themed for the Buffalo Bills. You get what I'm saying? Despite that, London and the England area is more considered to be Jaguars territory. Out of all the teams, they're the one that has gone the farthest to have a presence there. So you're going to have some fans at that game. That's going to be a huge deal for us. So the home field advantage is essentially wiped away at this point. That's how I would consider it. And I wouldn't give it to Jacksonville because it's in international territory. Not every fan there is going to be a Jaguars fan. What you're probably going to have is you're going to have a lot of different fans attending the game. Say like when it's a Sunday Night Football game in some stadiums. A lot of fans just want to be on that. You're going to get that with these international games because there's only like 5 that these fans can choose from. But the good thing is, it's going to be a lot of Jaguars fans there. So, huge advantage for Jacksonville. You now don't really have a game against anyone in the conference who won their division last year where you're at a massive disadvantage as far as who's hosting, where it's being played, all that, yada yada. So definitely excited about this. This is great news for the team. And for myself, I thought this game was already going to be close, right? And not that home field advantage completely changes everything. These teams are still going to play football, and I think both of them are relatively mature teams. I think Jacksonville showed last year they can go on the road and not have an impact them. I don't think that the impact in Kansas City was as much as what people expected it to be. People thought they were going to get obliterated because of the supposed talk before the divisional round that was widely misconstrued, and it didn't really play a huge factor in that game. And they were loud there. So, you got that side for Jackson. Buffalo, they've been solidified for a while. I do think they do have some issues, but I don't think it really goes in regards of where they're playing, the environment they're in, other than, if they're playing the Chiefs in the playoffs, I guess. So, that's kind of how I see it. So this is big for Jacksonville. I think this game heading into the season probably slightly leans towards Buffalo, but you're taking away that advantage from them. That is going to help out the Jaguars. This could be a game that a lot of people could flip the outcome just based off of where it's being played and the massive advantage that Jacksonville has. So we're not used to this, right? The NFL usually doesn't do us any favors, but this is a massive favor. Definitely going to be excited about it. The team needs to take advantage. They're going to go from basically being at a massive disadvantage on the road to playing a quote-unquote road game in another stadium with a week of extra time to acclimate, get used to it, and even going to have fans at the stadium. So, yeah, that's pretty good. But tomorrow, we're going to get the schedule. We're going to learn more. We'll have a podcast episode out following that, kind of talking about maybe some predictions for the year. We'll have an episode on that, I'm sure, and we'll get to know a little bit more about what's going on. But for now, other than that, probably not going to have a ton of stuff coming out. It's a dead period in the NFL season, unfortunately. We'll have some things go on eventually, but yeah, not a whole lot going on after the draft. So I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all your support and everyone who subscribed, especially over the draft period. I appreciate all the views and everything we got. Definitely the bestest channel's done at any point, and we weren't right about a single thing we predicted for the draft, it felt like. But hey, who was, right? So, yeah, appreciate it, guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And finally, go Jags.